had a read through the Timbrell Park Plan of Management, or the draft one that's been put up, and one of the big problems that a lot of people who use the park noted was speeding on Timbrell Drive. And as we can see here, this is a classic example of someone doing well over the 50km/h speed limit. And unfortunately this seems to happen an awful lot, but it just doesn't show up in any council statistics or anything like that, and seems to be generally ignored. Not that it did this person any good. You can see them sitting there at the intersection, and they were still sitting there after I got onto the Bay Run. But there's a certain group of people that love to use Timbrell Drive as a rat run to get round to City Westlink, I guess, and they drive on it very, very fast. And the problem with the Timbrell Park Plan of Management is it does nothing to address that, because the Plan of Management seem to have its scope finish at the curb of the park. Now here we can see a day when there's activities going on in the park, and what we're showing here are families who are walking down Heath Street, etc., and crossing this road to get to the park to, go to training or whatever the heck the kids are doing. And you can see they're crossing at multiple points, and because it's such a popular place for footy, etc., parking along here is usually in short supply, and people have to park right up the side streets. But again, the Timbrell Park plan does nothing to address safe crossings of this road. And you've got a fairly blind corner here, and you get people who absolutely race along here in both directions in their cars. Then we've got more people poking out, and someone coming around the corner, and yeah, it's not the greatest place. And you can see parents have to escort their children because you just wouldn't let them cross here on their own. And what have we got in the east-west cycleway? Well, we don't have a safe crossing, do we? We've just got another island out in the middle of the road. So parents just couldn't let their children come down here on their own without escort and supervision. It's, the level of safety has just not been raised high enough to allow children to have some independence. And you can see there, kids having to run across the road in between the cars, another family coming down the hill there. It's not the best thing, is it really? When you mix this up with fast-moving traffic, it's, bad combination. Bad. Safe crossings are definitely required. Now this graph is taken from Council's management plan for Timbrell Park, and it shows 27 activities that people say they do at Timbrell Park. And the interesting thing is, if you go through this list, 21 of them involve some kind of exercise, and only 6 what I'd call might not involve any exercise. So the ones that may not involve exercise, for instance, visit Livvi's Place Cafe, okay, go down to get a coffee. Picnic, yeah, probably just involves lying around on the grass, for instance. Come for Livvi's Place Story, well, I guess you sit around listening to a storyteller, but everything else involves riding a bike, chasing a footy, walking a dog, athletics, baseball, cricket, whatever. So it's just, it shows that this is a very active group of people who are using this. And also, if we have a look at the submissions from the community, what you notice in here is it says the most popular ways of travelling to Timbrell Park are driving, which was 65% of respondents, walking 48%, riding a bicycle 28%. Now obviously it's like that because people get there in different ways. Like some days you might have to drive to the park, and other days you might walk. So it's certainly more than 100%. But interestingly, if you add up walking and riding a bike, it comes to 76%, which is higher than the 65% who said they drive. Do an exercise where we start at 5 Dock Park and we divide the road up into short sections of say 10 metres, and we go through each of these maps and we rate each 10-metre section on a safety scale of 1 to 10, and then add all that up at the end and average it and see what the average safety looks like across all these maps. And what we would end up with is a graph or a spreadsheet or whatever you want to call it that looks something like this. So you start off with the 5 Dock Park Ingham intersection, and I'd rate that, even with the design that's been proposed, 1 out of 10. Then we get on to Howley Street on road, and it looks like it's reasonably good, quiet street, etc. I'd give it 7 out of 10 until we get down to the Heath Street intersection. And because there's no speed humps or anything there, let's give it a 5 out of 10 for turning right into Heath. Then we roll down Heath, again, hopefully quiet street. We'll give this section a 7 out of 10. until we get to the intersection of First Avenue. Now, First Avenue is a very busy road, a lot of fast moving traffic, and I'd give that crossing a 1 out of 10. And we get across that and we're back on Heath Street, rolling down the hill towards Timbrell Park. Let's give it an average of 7 out of 10 until we get to Rickard Street. Rickard, fairly quiet, although you do get some people that absolutely scream along it because it is such a quiet street and a nice wide one. We'll give that intersection 5 out of 10 again because there's nothing, there's no raised section at the give way sign to really slow drivers down and stop them just blasting straight across Heath Street. We continue rolling down Heath and we'll give this section again 7 out of 10 again until we get to the corner of Henley Marine Drive, where it's a 1 out of 10 because Henley Marine Drive has got again fast moving cars and no safe raised crossing. Then we get into Timbrell Park itself and let's give that a 10 out of 10 in that section. So if we were to add all that up, we'd say, well, we'll give it a total score of 266, which is an average of 6.8. And you go, whoa, that's pretty good. That's nearly an average of 7 out of 10. That must be a super safe route. And then you go, well, hang on. But there's 3 sections where it's 1 out of 10, which means extremely dangerous. So instead of doing the average of the safety across that whole section, you should say it's as safe as the most unsafe section, which is 1. So that entire section, which goes for hundreds of meters, looks great, has a safety rating of 1 out of 10, which means essentially you can't go from 5 Dock Park to Timbrell Park safely because you've got to go across 3 very unsafe intersections. So for that reason, this design really isn't the greatest without good, safe intersection crossings.